Hi everyone, welcome to Lumio Palooza. Having a really great time and enjoying yourself so far. My name is Shay Stevens. I'm an education consultant from Smart Technologies, and I represent all of Canada. And this is my personal second Lumio Palooza, so I'm really excited to be back and to learn alongside all of you. It's going to be a really great session. So let us know where you're joining from in the chat. Feel free to tell us about a session that you're looking forward to, maybe something that you've enjoyed so far, something that's resonated you. I already see we have lots of people from Canada. So we got Ontario, which is where I am, several from Manitoba. That's where Devon's from. That's awesome. I saw Newfoundland. And then we get some people from the States as well, Texas, Washington. Awesome.
I see one of my colleagues here. Hi, Cheryl.
Oh,
And I see
that's
my
so
new friend Stephanie from
fun.
Scotland.
That's
I told
awesome. I love
Stephanie in
to
a
see.
previous session I'm heading to Scotland right away. So
Beautiful. So you guys can link up and talk all things Lumio, right? That'll be great. Well,
yeah.
thanks so much, everybody, for participating and letting us know where you're from. We're so excited to welcome educators from all over the world to this event. It really is so exciting for us. I'm really excited to, introduce our presenter and share her with you today. But first, I want to make sure that you have all the hashtags for today. So make sure if you want to share on socials, it's going to be hashtag LumioPalooza or hashtag GoLumio, and we'll get those in the chat for you as well. I want you to make sure that you keep an eye on the chat throughout the session, just because you will be receiving some links, including link for the survey, which will give you your certificate at the end. So just keep an eye on that. And then we'll also just make sure you're subscribed and following the Smart Tech and Lumio YouTube channels, as well as our socials. If you do want to connect with me, I'm at Inside Smart with Shay on Instagram. And throughout the session, just feel free to ask any questions that you want, and we'll make sure to get them to Devon if they're relevant to be answered in the moment. Otherwise, we can save them for the end. But please pop them in the chat throughout, and I will monitor that along with Sophia. And just a reminder, this session is being recorded. You will receive all recordings via email early next week. So don't stress too much if you miss something. You can always go back and watch it. So if you want to grab a screenshot of this session too, we'd love to see that shared too. And now it's time for our presenters. So without further ado, I can't wait to say hi to Devon. Hi, Devon. How are you doing? How are you feeling about Lumio Palooza?
I've had an amazing couple of days of professional learning at Lumio Palooza. I was in sessions yesterday, I think from like 8 in the morning until 4:30 at night, and I just feel like I learned so much.
That's awesome. It sounds like you've gotten to so many sessions. I saw you in a few yesterday. So that's great. What's like one thing that you get really excited for during this week?
Well, I don't think at our previous Lumio Paloozas we've had like the featured keynote presenters, and I just enjoyed the two keynotes so much. Like the Merrills yesterday talking about creativity, like that just really, really resonated, especially how they explained the relationship of like creativity in the AI age. I love that. And then today, hearing from Selena Bernard from England and her just really like elevating the voices of both teachers and young learners, I thought it's just so great to see our young learners getting the prominence that they deserve.
I completely agree. I thought those keynotes were both fantastic. I'm really glad you enjoyed them as well. And last thing before we start, do you want to just tell the group how many Lumio Paloozas that you've been in or participated in?
This is my second year presenting at Lumio Palooza. I started using Lumio Palooza 2 years ago when I was at ISTE in Philadelphia and happened upon the Lumio booth and discovered what a perfect solution Lumio was for my classroom needs. So this is my second Lumio Palooza as a presenter and an attendee.
That is so exciting. We always love when booth traffic turns into awesome, loyal fans of Lumio because we love it so much too. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you to present. I'll be here if you need anything. And without further ado, let's get started.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Make sure your audio's on. Okay, can everyone see that? I can just check back here. Yep, it's there. Okay, so first of all, we're going to be doing some interactive activities, and the join link is in the chat, or you can just open a new tab, lumioclass.com, and enter my class ID, which is 482889. That's 482889. I see people are connecting and it's in the chat, so I'm going to keep going. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to talk about project-based learning and how, when combined with Lumio, it really amplifies the voice and choice of our learners. As Shay mentioned, my name is Devon Caldwell. I've been an early years teacher for over 25 years now, and I've also done a lot of work in inclusive or special education. My other passion is working with pre-service teachers in teacher education programs. I would love it if you tag me or connect with me on social media. Instagram is kgeducation.ca. Blue Sky or X is India0309. You can always email me at hello@devoncaldwell.com. And on LinkedIn, I'm just Devon Caldwell, so pretty easy to find. So please tag me and connect with me on social media. I love those conversations that arise from my presentations. Okay, so an overview of what we're going to be talking about in our time together. We're going to begin with a quick examination of the key components of project-based learning, or PBL. I'm also going to share about 5 tidbits from the research because I think it's really important that our classroom practice is grounded in research-based practices. So I'm going to share a little bit from the research. Then we're going to look at the Lumio tools that really complement and enhance the components of project-based learning. Throughout the presentation, I'm going to share a number of project examples with you from both my kindergarten classroom as well as a grade 7 and 8 social studies classroom that I co-teach in sometimes. We'll end by talking about my favorite features of Lumio for project-based learning. Okay, so we are going to begin with a response or a poll, which is one of the Lumio templates. It's super easy to use. If you are doing this for a curricular purpose, there's AI Assist, which will connect to your curriculum in anywhere in North America. So it's really, really helpful for doing anything linked to your curriculum. But today is a poll. So I just created this myself. So I want to know, what is your comfort level or your familiarity with project-based learning? So A, I'm brand new to PBL and curious to learn more. B, I've heard of it, but I haven't used it in my teaching yet. C, I've tried it a few times and I'm looking to go deeper. And D, I use PBL regularly and I'm here for new ideas and tools. So you can see that I'm able to see the progress or the percentage of students who are connected to my class that have joined already, that have answered the poll already. We're at 67%. I can also click to live results. And this is so interesting for me as a presenter to be able to see who is joining me and what their familiarity level is so that I can tailor my presentation accordingly. So it looks like most of us are falling into B and C, which is heard of it but haven't used it, tried it but looking to go deeper. And we've got kind of one person who would be more of an expert and 3 people who are brand new. So we're at 81%. So thanks to everyone who participated. These polls are one of my favorite features in Lumio, and you'll see throughout my presentation that I use them for many purposes. Last year in our school, we had a huge mental health initiative where we did weekly mental health check-ins, and I did my kindergarten ones using this poll. I was able to use images instead of words, which is so helpful when you're working with young learners or students with exceptionalities. Okay, so for those of us who are new to project-based learning, I think it's really helpful for us to share a common definition. This comes from PBL Works, or the former Buck Institute for Education, and this is a great visual that really explains the components well. So you see on the left, we start with a challenging problem or question, and sometimes those are posed to the class by the teacher. Other times they arise from something that's happening in the real world or the student's interests. Then we engage in a process of sustained inquiry where we are asking questions, we're finding out answers, we're formulating new questions, we're getting a really clear picture of what is actually going on. Throughout the process, authenticity as well as student voice and choice are really key to the process of project-based learning. This is all about what interests your students and what seems real and authentic for them. Project-based learning takes place in the real world with real information and real connections with other people. And if you've ever launched a project that your students just weren't engaged in, you know that that project is going to probably fall flat. Again, throughout this process, reflection is going on at all points where we're reflecting on our knowledge, we're revising what we believe, we're formulating new questions, we're deciding what worked well and what didn't work well. Critique and revision goes hand in hand with the reflection process. Project-based learning is very iterative. We're trying things out, we're revising, we're trying things again. The goal of project-based learning is to come up with some kind of public product or solution or some kind of action step that we can take. And throughout my presentation today, you will see how the Lumio tools and templates fit so beautifully into this project-based learning cycle. Okay, I'm going to share a little bit of information from the research, and you can flip these over on your own devices, or I will flip them over and read them out loud. So I'm citing 5 different studies here. Bell from 2010 says, project-based learning isn't an add-on, it is the curriculum, integrating standards or outcomes while supporting literacy and numeracy. Kokotsaki, Menzies, and Wiggins from 2016 shared, the project-based learning is an active child-centered approach that builds knowledge through student interests and real-world authentic learning. Pramling Samuelson from 2011 wrote that educators should challenge young children to solve real-world problems to spark creativity and innovation. And Cates and Shard from 2000, PBL supports intellectual growth by engaging children in observing and investigating their experiences and environment. And finally, Caldy, Philippatu, and Goveris from 2011, children build subject area knowledge and collaborative skills while displaying motivation and positive peer relations. So there's a large body of literature out there on project-based learning, but I just took 5 tidbits from a literature review that I developed to share with you today to ground our time together in just a little bit of the research. Okay, so throughout the presentation today, I'm going to be referencing examples from 3 projects that happened this year in my school. The most recent one is the 3rd one, and I probably have the most to share about that. One project is our wolves and wolf dogs project from my kindergarten classroom. And the issue was people breed wolf dogs as pets. What happens when pet owners can't care for them properly? So this project began with a lot of questions about wolves, engaging in inquiry around wolves. And then we discovered a wolf dog sanctuary in Cochrane, Alberta, where these wolf dog hybrids end up when people can't care for them. So our project turned into wanting to learn all we could about wolf dogs and then coming up with an action that would support the wolf dog sanctuary. Our second project was our local museum with the grades 7 and 8 social studies class. And the question was, how can we make museum artifacts and exhibits relevant to young people today? We have a local museum in our town, and I'm not sure how much traffic it gets, but of course, it's so relevant to the history of our community and ties in beautifully to the grade 7 and 8 social studies curriculum. So we wanted to expose our students to what was in the museum and help them find a way to make those museum artifacts and exhibits relevant to the larger community as well as to the other students in the school. The action they ended up taking was creating digital posters, which they ended up printing out, inviting the museum board and the community in, as well as other students in the school, to just really show what was in our museum and how important it was to our community. Our third project, which I just wrapped up in June in kindergarten, was about black bears and wildfires. And our question was, how do wildfires affect wild animals such as bears? How can we prevent wildfires from starting? If you've been following the news, you'll know that northern Manitoba has been ravaged by wildfires. And this project arose very much from what children were seeing and hearing in the news and social media. As I mentioned throughout the presentation today, I'm going to show examples of the different Lumio tools that support each step of project-based learning. If you're new to Lumio, everything I'm showing, when you first log into Lumio, you just press that plus button in the left-hand corner, and this screen pops up with all of these different options. Okay, so getting started. Sometimes it's a problem that you or your students are experiencing. Maybe it's a question a student has. Maybe it's something your students are really interested in, or else it's a provocation that you very deliberately set up to engage your students in a new cycle of project-based learning. So some of my favorite Lumio templates are just a plain old new page that I often use as a whole class whiteboard. There's the shout it out template that we're going to try in just a moment. And then there is the response or the poll that we just did earlier. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so this was the picture that started our bear project. It was posted on social media. My husband showed me, and I thought, oh, this could be the perfect way to launch a new cycle of project-based learning. Children are always so interested in wild animals. So I had saved this picture from the social media post. It was shared by the Manitoba Black Bear Rescue. And I took it to school to put on the smartboard to show my students. And before I could even show them, probably three of my children brought it up to me saying, Mrs. Caldwell, did you hear about the baby bear? So I want you to pretend that you're a student in my class and I have a shout it out for you. And the question that I'm posing is, what do you wonder about this bear? So I'll just go back, make sure you take a really good look at this picture. And now, in your shout it out response, what do you wonder about this bear? Okay. So I'm seeing some questions, some comments already. What happened to his foot? What happened to the baby bear's feet? What happened to his paw? Is he going to be okay? I wonder what happened and how I can help. Is he okay? How did he get hurt? Was it abandoned by its mama? What happened to it? What happened to his feet? How old is he? What happened to his foot? What can I do to help him? Is it hurt? So you see right away as a room full of adults, how engaged we are by the plight of this baby bear. I'd like to just point out a couple of features of Shout It Out. I've set this up for you to respond with text. However, in kindergarten, I usually set up my Shout It Out that they respond with images and they're able to take pictures of things and then use that to share their thinking with the whole group in this basically a digital bulletin board. You see this garbage can here? If an inappropriate post pops up, which doesn't happen in kindergarten, but might with older children, you're able just to drag it over to the garbage before sharing it to the class, which is really nice. So thank you everyone for your responses and engaging with this. Okay, so in my classroom, since they're really not able to keyboard sentences like you just did, I shared this picture of the baby bear and we used a whole class whiteboard. So my students were able to find their name and use attach audio. We use attach audio so much in kindergarten to share our thinking. And I would really recommend if you're working with young children to pre-populate the whiteboard with their names so that it doesn't get all messy and kids are getting rid of other kids' audio or not sure where to put it. So after we looked at this picture and we said out loud what we wondered, we recorded what we wondered on our devices. And I'm just going to share a little snippet of that with you.
I wonder if it's sleeping. I wonder if his feet are burnt. I wonder if his nose got blind. I wonder if the feet got burnt. I wonder if the nose got burnt. I wonder if the foot got burned.
So I will just stop there, but that gives you an idea of how children are able to use the attach audio feature to share their wonders and their questions in project-based learning. And all they do is they just click on their name, drop down arrow, attach audio, and then they're able to record their voices. In my classroom, we have 6 iPads and we work collaboratively on our iPads. I don't have one-to-one devices, but I actually prefer that. I like my students working together and helping each other with using the device. And then, of course, just really strengthening their ability to communicate verbally with each other and negotiate and all of the different things that take place when children share technology. So that was how we kicked off the Bear project using a whole class whiteboard and the attach audio feature. At times, project-based learning doesn't really arise naturally in the classroom. And as an educator, I'm really engaged and excited about project-based learning. And sometimes I have to kind of be the impetus that gives the little push to get a new cycle of project-based learning started. So how I did that before Christmas was talking to students about animals they were interested in. And three animals came up: wolves, cougars, and polar bears. And we used the Lumio response tool to poll the class to find out what we were most interested in learning about. And wolves were the animal that was most popular. And that launched our cycle of project based learning where we focused on wolves and wolf dogs. Once you have identified what students are interested in learning about or what the real world issue or problem is, we engage in a cycle of sustained inquiry. And there are so many templates and ready-made resources in Lumio that are incredible for the inquiry process. So again, I've circled the new page because that whole class whiteboard is so useful. Shout it out works great for students posting their questions. Of course, we always need to find out what students know already. So activating prior knowledge, questioning and reflection, and then graphic organizers to help us manage all of the new information. So when we're activating our prior knowledge, as I mentioned, there's shouted out activities, and there's a great template called KWLQ, what your students know, want to know, learned, and their questions. So those are already created for you as a shouted out. And then there's also some really nice handout activities like an entrance ticket and a draw what you know about the topic. And those are ready-made, and I'm going to show you what those look like. So this is the grade 7 and 8 museum project. And this was before we visited the museum. We did a shout it out. These were older students. They were using Chromebooks. So they just joined with my class code. I also could have shared it with them in Google Classroom. So you see, what do you know about this museum? What do you expect to see or find out? And these were the students' responses. So this really kicked off our cycle of inquiry around the museum. In my kindergarten classroom for our Black Bear project, this is the entrance ticket, and I was able to customize the direction on it. So know that with all of these pre-created resources, you can still customize them and make them into your own. So I put explain what you know about Manitoba black bears, and you can see that one of my students drew a black bear. We see water and a fish. And she was able to record her voice saying, bears like to catch fish and eat fish. So that showed me that she already had some knowledge around Manitoba black bears. So that's the entrance ticket. And then, of course, we spend a large amount of our time constructing new knowledge and finding answers to our questions. Something I absolutely love about Lumio is the YouTube template. So if you just press that plus button, YouTube is right on that start screen. You click on YouTube and you literally copy and paste the link from YouTube that you want your students to watch. And then you're able to either, show it on your smartboard, or my students really like watching videos on their iPads in pairs and at their own pace, which is really nice. It removes all ads and students are only able to watch that video. So it just makes accessing YouTube so much more safe and child friendly. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like in the classroom when we're using YouTube to find answers to our questions. So we see two of my littles here. They're watching that black bear video and they have post-it notes in front of them. And their job was to record at least one thing that they learned about bears while watching the video. And then I scribed for them. So sometimes, I'll show you on another slide, we actually respond using a technology-based tool. But in this case, letting the students watch the video and document what they were learning using symbols was a really, really effective way for them to conduct research on black bears. So you can see that I've scribed for them and all my students have drawn their own little images to help them remember what they learned. So this was another video we watched. This one was about wolves. We used that YouTube template to watch a Wildcrats video on wolves. And this time, instead of using post-it notes, we used that whole class whiteboard. So you see, I have all my students' names on there, and they were able to record one thing that they learned about wolves while watching the video. And then as a whole class, we could come together and I could play all of the different bits of knowledge that my students had picked up from watching that video. Managing all of the new ideas and information that arise during the cycle of project-based learning can be challenging, and Lumio has a fantastic selection of graphic organizers that are customizable and appropriate for a variety of ages. On the next slide, I'll show you the Venn diagram that we did. So earlier in the year, we had our big wolf project. Later in the year, we were learning about bears, and the students were drawing all kinds of comparisons and contrasts between black bears and wolves. So we decided to record that in a Venn diagram. You can see that in this case, I was scribing for them. One other way that I could have done this was with different images that they could drag into the Venn diagram. Questioning and reflection is a really key part of the inquiry process and a project-based learning cycle. And once again, there's an actual icon you click on, questioning and reflection, and there are so many different activities to support questioning and reflection in your classroom. So this was draw what you know about the topic. And Lumio has simple drawing tools. You can see that if I click right here on the pen, that's where you would access the drawing tools. And my students do a fantastic job. Like, the tools aren't complex and it's pretty basic what you can do with them, but my students love drawing what they know. You can also see the little speaker on there. So my students drew what they thought happened to the bear, and then they were able to attach their voice to it. So you can see my students' knowledge was dead on. There is a tree, there's smoke everywhere, and there's a fire. And then my student was able to record his voice sharing what happened to the bear. So that's draw what you know about the topic. It's excellent for reflecting on what you know so far. Okay, and I'm just going to share that with you right now. I actually did like a screen capture of all of their draw what you know and uploaded it to YouTube so I could share it with you as part of this presentation. What do you think happened to the bear?
I think this is the guy chopping down a tree, and then the bear stepped into the fire. And I think the bear stepped in the fire too.
And what did the fire do to the bear?
And the fire made the and then the bear got burnt by the fire.
And it hurt his feet.
Yeah.
So that's an example of what that draw what you know can look like when paired with the attach audio feature. Student voice and choice is very much at the heart of project-based learning. In fact, it's in the title of my presentation. And Lumio's templates and ready-made resources do an incredible job of amplifying students' voices and just giving them so much more choice in their learning. So we've talked about the shout it out and the response. I'm going to show you how I use some of the Lumio features to support student voice and choice. So part of the action we wanted to take around wildfires and black bears was finding out how we can prevent wildfires and how to be safe around fires. So a little field trip to our local fire department seemed like a really logical next step. So before we went on our field trip, I asked all of my students to think of at least one question for the fire chief. Some language that I've changed over my teaching career, instead of saying like, who has a question about, I now say, what questions do you have? Or everyone think of one or two questions. So instead of having their names, because I just did this really quickly, I just started a whole class whiteboard. I told students to drag out their favorite sticker. The stickers are located just right there on the side with the plus and the heart and the picture. And students could drag out their favorite sticker and then attach audio asking their question. If you've ever taught kindergarten, you know that even differentiating between a question and a statement is a huge win. So we all came up with our questions, and then after we came back from our field trip, we were able to review our questions and share the answers. Another way that Lumio is great for honoring students' voices is by simply recording their questions so that they are there and we are able to work with them and ask others about them. So we had a video call with the Yamnuska Wolf Dog Sanctuary in Cochrane, Alberta, and these were all the questions that my students came up with prior to the video call. So this is nothing amazing. All it is a slide in Lumio, But you'll see, I'll talk about it more in a little bit, that Lumio is just an amazing container that documents all of our project-based learning. So we are able to document all of our questions in Lumio so that we could ask them during the video call. This is the grade 7 and 8 museum project. And another way that we honor students' voices in Lumio is by co-creating criteria. So again, I started a whole class whiteboard. The students joined on their Chromebooks, and they were able to contribute their suggestions for what makes a good museum exhibit poster. And we then used this criteria to develop a rubric for the digital posters that they created. Okay, and this is an actual response that I did with my students, a poll. So in our Wolf Dog project, the students decided that they wanted to have some kind of sale to raise money to donate to Yamnuska Wolf Dog Sanctuary. So all of these ideas were brought forward by the students, and then we had to decide what specific actions we would take. And this is yet another way that students' voices are heard and they get to have choice in their learning. So I'm going to ask you, what should we do to help the wolf dogs at the sanctuary? A, have a donut sale. B, a jelly bean guessing jar. C, create art and have an art exhibit and sale. D, make a movie to raise awareness about the wolf dogs. So you'll notice that none of the responses have words. And that's something I absolutely love about Lumio is you can use images for everything. There is a built-in image library, and you can search for the image you want and just pop it in. If you can't find the image you want, you can upload one. And working with young children who are emerging readers and writers, having all of those images at your fingertips just makes your life so much easier. Okay, let's look at our live results. So a lot of you are favoring making a movie to raise awareness. We've got some people who are interested in the donut sale and an art sale as well. The jelly bean guessing jar is low. Well, I'll have to tell you, in my kindergarten room, the jelly bean guessing jar was huge and the donut sale was a favorite. So we ended up doing both things at once. We had a donut sale and we had a jelly bean guessing jar. But that ended up being the student's choice as to the action they took, not my choice. Okay. The final step in the cycle of project-based learning is developing a public product, developing a solution, or taking action. For this part of project-based learning, we use Lumio in 4 ways. We brainstorm ideas in Lumio, we vote in Lumio, as you just saw with the poll, we create products in Lumio, and we share our learning in Lumio. So I have some examples of how that looks. Okay, so brainstorming actions and solutions. Shout It Out is a fantastic tool for brainstorming actions and solutions. In Shout It Out, you can either have student names display or keep it anonymous. So it gives students a really safe space to share their ideas without fear of judgment from their peers. All voices can be heard that way. Once we've generated a bunch of different ideas, we might use the response feature to select the most popular option. Sometimes we use Lumio slides to create products and share with a real-world audience. And with the attach audio feature, we were able to add our voices to our work. So Lumio supports many different aspects of that final step of project-based learning. Okay, so this was not created in Lumio. It was planned in Lumio, but it was actually created in Canva. And Canva and Lumio play really well together. If you click on the Apps tab of Canva, you can search Lumio, and what you create in Canva, you can actually send over to Lumio, which is really nice. So one of the actions we wanted to take was to raise awareness about bear safety because we have a lot of black bears in our area. So the students used Lumio to plan their slides, and then we made this movie in Canva, and it is just so adorable. I'll show you a quick snippet.
Every teddy bear who's been pulled is sure of a treat today. There's lots of marvelous things to eat and wonderful games to play.
If you see a bear, stay away from it. Don't run away like a crazy man if you see a bear. Talk to the bear and wave your hands slowly. Hey, Mr. Bear. Hey, Mr. Bear. Stay still, look big, make noise. Run! Slowly back away. If a bear attacks you, fight as hard as you can.
Every teddy bear who's been good is sure of a treat today. There's
So although the video wasn't created in Lumio, we did use Lumio for our planning process. And it was just such a fun action to take as part of our project-based learning that really served a real need. It taught my students about how to be safer around bears. And at our year-end kindergarten tea party, we shared the video with all of our families. The other action they took that we did create in Lumio was raising awareness about wildfires. So my students brainstormed all of the different actions that we can take to prevent wildfires and be safer around fires. We put each idea on a different slide, and then I turned it into an individual handout, and my students were able to work with one other student and collaborate on illustrating and recording their voices for that one particular point. So you can see this one is do not light fires or set off fireworks when there is a fire ban. So I keyboarded that idea, and then these students illustrated it and attached their voices.
Why if I speak three things to start? Wood, oxygen, and something to start lightning, cigarettes, or campfires. Never throw a cigarette on the ground. Always put campfires when you leave. Do not light a fire when there's a fire ban.
So you can see how simple this little action was. Just using a slide in Lumio, the drawing tools, and attaching audio. And then again, at our kindergarten tea party, we shared this with a very real world audience to educate them about wildfires and fire prevention. This shows some of the other ways that we use Lumio in that final stage of project-based learning. So when we were collecting orders for donuts for our Wolf Dog donut sale, we used tally marks on a simple slide in Lumio to keep track of how many donuts we had to order, made for an excellent little math lesson on counting by fives and tallies. We also housed our to-do list inside Lumio, and we were able to drag a sticker over to check off the tasks that we had completed. So much of project-based learning really takes place on the fly because you can't always predict the direction things are going to go. So when we did our jelly bean guessing jar at the donut sale, we had to find out or figure out a way to see who had the closest guess. So I asked my students, like, how should we figure this out? And what we came up with was using a number chart. So it was so nice for me. I was really able to just quickly go into the Lumio library, search 100 chart or 100 grid, and just pull one out onto a slide. And then we used that to determine who had the closest guess. And you can see that our two closest guesses were 75 and 53, and there were 62 jelly beans in the guessing jar. So again, some really nice math that was supported by a quick and easy pre-made template in Lumio. As you can probably tell, Lumio is invaluable for project management and documentation. Our entire project lives in Lumio. Every day when we revisit the project, we can scroll back to the learning from the previous day. So it really fosters continuity. In Manitoba, we only have kindergarten every other day. Some school divisions do full-time kindergarten, but it's not provincially supported. So some weeks I would only see my learners on Tuesday and Thursday. And it would be a long time until they were back in the classroom. So being able just to quickly review what we've done in the project so far was invaluable. You can see that like our project to-do list lived there. It serves as ongoing documentation of our learning and just a container where the entire project lives. Okay, we are going to wrap it up with one fun little activity. This is the rank order activity. And I had a list of my top, I think maybe 6 reasons why I think Lumio is amazing for supporting student voice and choice and project-based learning. And I thought, well, rather than me present those, why don't I ask you to order them? So in rank order, you just need to drag the little sentences over to the I don't know what I'd call it, like the little graph on the right. And I want you to order them from what you think is the most important or valuable and what you think is maybe the least important or least useful. And it's fun for me because I can see the results while this is going on, the class overview. And then I can also see your names and the progress you're making. And you can see that this isn't correct or incorrect. With rank order, you could make it like a correct response or an incorrect. Instead, this is more opinion based. For me, though, I think all of these things have fairly equal importance. The templates and the ready-made resources are there for me. They take no time to create, and they just support every step of project-based learning. So many features of Lumio make it interactive and collaborative. The attach audio feature, I'm sure you've heard me say that about 25 times in this presentation, but it's absolutely invaluable when working with younger learners or students with exceptionalities. And there's no need for apps or software on student devices. My students just scan the QR code with their devices, or you could also have like a shortcut on your student device that they click on and then enter the 6-digit class code. It provides safe access to learning materials. Students are learning in a very safe and controlled environment, whether it's watching YouTube videos or engaging with something that you created in Lumio. And as you see, it's very flexible. I can use Lumio with my whole class, small group, or individual learners. And all of those things contribute to making Lumio absolutely invaluable for project-based learning in my practice. Okay, well, thank you to everyone who participated in the rank order activity.
Thank you so much, Devon. That was all so amazing. Do you have, oh, go ahead with this one.
Okay, well, I started my journey with Lumio 2 years ago when I became an ambassador, and I really encourage you to consider becoming an ambassador. There's so many opportunities to access amazing, great free PD, hear about brand new features, and connect with other people in the community. So you do not have to be an expert because I sure wasn't when I started, but I've definitely come far since then with all of the support I've received. So consider becoming a Lumio ambassador.
Thank you so much, Devin. That was amazing. Honestly, I learned so much, and I know everybody else did too. I especially loved how you showed how you can use that whole class whiteboard on the fly learning. We know that project-based learning, things can change as we go, and we need to be adaptable to our students. So I loved how you showed that. That was amazing. A big thank you to everybody who joined us today. The survey link should be coming up in the chat there very soon. Thank you so much to Devin for leading this session today. I loved hearing about how you use Lumio for project-based learning. You showed us a little bit of everything. Truly, I know everybody took something away. Make sure all the folks that are still here, stay tuned because we have so many more amazing sessions for you today. And that's it. If you haven't registered for any of the sessions that are happening the rest of the day, make sure you go to the link in the chat, or you can Google Lumio Palooza 2025 to register for more sessions. And we'll see you again very soon. Thank you so much.